Damn, man. Sorry, Timberwolves fans, but this series is OVER over. First of all, real quick, I want to say sorry I have not been talking about the Oklahoma City Mavericks series. I just haven't been able to record on the days those games happen, but I will be talking about Game 5. I think it's tomorrow, but I will be talking about this series after Game 5 tomorrow. But anyway, let's just get back to the masterclass that we just saw from Nikola Jokic tonight. Just unbelievable. I am so glad that I was smart enough to give the champs and the best player in the world respect, because they earned that benefit of the doubt. The 0-2 series deficit was some adversity, but just 3 straight games of just artistry from Nikola Jokic, and he was kind of a fucking sicko in this game. Like, he was showing a little swag. He was smiling after a few buckets. There was one possession at the end of the third quarter where I forgot who was trying to set the screen. I think it was Reggie Jackson, but Nikola Jokic waved him off. Could have had the easier matchup if Nickeil Alexander-Walker switched, but Jokic was like, nope, I want Gobert. And then he took Gobert to the rack. He leaned to the left and like angled his arm to try to get that ball up on the rim with his touch. And he was falling away and won. Just ridiculous. 40 points, 13 assists, 7 rebounds, 0 turnovers, 80% true shooting. I think he was like 10 of 10 right at the rim. And look, I've already seen it, and I've seen it from Laker fans, ironically enough, because they think Anthony Davis could have stopped this man. But the Rudy Gobert Defensive Player of the Year takes, like, come on, guys. If the criteria is stop Nikola Jokic, then no motherfucker should win Defensive Player of the Year. Look, Rudy had made it tough for Jokic, and Jokic is just giving him that post work, the floaters. There was even a step back 3 in the fourth quarter that gave Jokic 40, where Gobert contested it well. He high-fived him, but Jokic is just too good. And look, I know, you're a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. You have to stop that guy. I agree with that to some extent, but there is nobody on planet Earth right now, or planet wherever the fuck, that can stop Jokic. No one. He's been aggressive, especially these last 2 games. Game 3, he was more of, controlling the pace, facilitating, while Jamal Murray did the heavy lifting and broke out of his slump. By the way, great adjustment by the Nuggets, bringing, it's been talked about in this series, but, Murray was struggling to bring the ball up a lot in the first 2 games, and the Nuggets made a nice adjustment by letting Aaron Gordon run some offense. I pointed that out in my last video, and also allowing Jokic to bring the ball up the court. Game 4 and 5, there is nothing the Timberwolves can do to stop this man. It's really insane. And then tonight, the scoring, along with the assists, he had like 5 assists in that third quarter where he also scored 16 points. But the scoring just opened up the passing, and then everything was just open. KCP was hitting a bunch of threes. Michael Porter Jr., even though he was 2 of 7, still had 2 threes. The guy was just unstoppable tonight. And that's really what it boils down to. This is an all-timer that we are watching that will not be denied. He just won't. You really think that Cat and Gobert and all the bigs in Minnesota, young team led by a young 22-year-old rising superstar, is going to get Jokic up out of there? Nope. Jokic played bad those first 2 games. These last 5 years, that game 2 was the worst playoff game I've seen Jokic play. And then he just comes out and just straight up controls everything. There's nothing the Timberwolves can do. As great as their defense is, if you can't stop Jokic, what do you do? Because he's scoring over the top. I'm telling you, Gobert is contesting these shots, and he's getting flamed right now. And yes, Rudy Gobert got fried tonight. He absolutely got fried. But Jokic made some ridiculous shots, man. I don't know if anybody can stop that man. Which is funny why it's funny that Laker fans and Heat fans, at least from what I've seen online already, have been saying, let's never give Gobert the Defensive Player of the Year again. It's like Bam couldn't stop Jokic in the finals. Anthony Davis for 2 straight years, giving him 30 and 10 on the other end of the floor. Still can't stop that man. And truthfully, we need to talk about Rudy's offensive impact more so than his defensive impact, because his offensive impact is negative. And then every time he gets on a switch, teams, that's always been the problem with Rudy in the playoffs that I've brought up before. It's not so much the defense, it's the fact that teams can get away with switching smalls on him. And then the Timberwolves tonight, for the second straight game, I think, felt inclined to give Rudy touches near the basket, hoping to get some easy shots at the rim. And he would either get fouled, miss free throws, go 1 of 2 every time. He was 4 of 7 tonight from the line. Or, pray that he'll at least have some touch tonight around the rim, which he was 7 of 7. But I just don't think the Timberwolves, in the flow of that game, needed to find Rudy Gobert on seals. And that's what the Denver Nuggets wanted. Anthony Edwards, the coverage he was seeing tonight, that was, all right, Anthony Edwards, you're here. You're getting this type of coverage now. Every time Gobert set the screen, it just seemed like Jokic ignored him just to go way up past the level and essentially put 2 on the ball and let any other Timberwolf make a decision. Karl Anthony Towns, he's reckless when he drives the ball, and it's either going to be an offensive foul or a wild shot attempt. They just loaded up on Anthony Edwards tonight, and that allowed the Nuggets to funnel the ball to guys like Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. Even though he was 10 of 19 tonight, I did not like the offensive process at times, except for that fourth quarter where he got a few post-ups, but the game was already in hand at that point. I'm talking about like in the second quarter where Karl Anthony Towns decided to take a one-legged fadeaway post-up while posting up Justin Holiday 17 feet away from the basket. And it's just stuff like that where we have just seen the difference between these two teams. And unfortunately for the Timberwolves, who have had an all-time great season for their franchise, they just ran into one of the baddest dudes on the planet. Brother, I have 47. All right, let's talk about Knicks Pacers, because the Knicks went up 3-2 in this series. I just have one central talking point for this game in particular. What the hell was Tyrese Haliburton doing in this game? And what the hell was he doing in game 1 of this series? Just being weirdly passive, passing up layups to pass it out back to the perimeter, which, Stan Van Gundy mentioned one of those plays tonight. There's just too much dribbling around the three-point line, not enough trying to get to the paint, and you're just letting Deuce McBride and Alec Burks take you out of the game. I don't know what happened since that hamstring injury. It's been like 5 months since that hamstring injury, but there is just something that has happened to Tyrese Haliburton where he has lost confidence. And, he played better in games, 3 and 4, but you have to wonder why in these big road games, specifically game 1 and then tonight's game, why the passiveness? And look, I don't want to discredit Deuce McBride. He is an awesome defender, but Tyrese Haliburton is a star caliber point guard. At one point before his hamstring injury was averaging 24 and 12 and was a 50-40-90 guy. And we have not seen that guy consistently since he's come back from these myriad of injuries, because I know he's dealing with some other stuff like a back and all that stuff. But you can't rely on, the bench to be productive every game of this series. You can't rely on Miles Turner, who has been great in these playoffs, to hot shoot your way out of a game. Like, Tyrese Haliburton is the straw that stirs the Pacers offense, and he's just been passive, making bad decisions, turnovers at the wrong time. Just weird decisions that I don't usually see him make. There was a couple in transition that were befuddling too. And then on the other end, they are just getting destroyed. And it's not just, Haliburton getting hunted on the defensive end. It was the offensive rebounds tonight, which this was like the first big, offensive rebounding game for the Knicks in this series, I feel. Game 2 or whatever it was, the Knicks had like a giant fourth quarter on the offensive glass, right? But I feel like this whole game, it was a lot of what happened in the Sixers series, multiple games where the Knicks were just absolutely relentless on the offensive glass. At one point in the first half, Isaiah Hartenstein had 7 offensive rebounds, while the Pacers had 6 total rebounds as a team. Just insane what they're doing. And then Jalen Brunson, of course, what more can you say about this guy? 5th 40-point game of the playoffs. The Pacers really don't have any answers for him, because if Aaron Nesmith gets in foul trouble, and with Jalen's, ability to grift and draw fouls and do the snapback thing with his head and all that stuff, if Nesmith gets into foul trouble, then you put Andrew Nembhard on Brunson, and as much as Nembhard has tried, Brunson has absolutely cooked that man. Same with TJ McConnell. And then, of course, you try to bring up Haliburton's man to, do some screening action, and then all of a sudden, the Pacers are more inclined to put 2 on the ball, and then all of a sudden, you got Dante DiVincenzo cutting, Deuce McBride, which was a great adjustment by Tom Thibodeau tonight, adding him to the starting lineup to get another ball handler in there. Deuce McBride is getting downhill off of a closeout a little bit. Josh Hart is continuing to crash the offensive glass like a madman and attacking in transition. This Knicks team is unbelievable. And I never also look, one of my very first videos on this channel was me criticizing Tom Thibodeau when he was with the Minnesota Timberwolves about his propensity to play players heavy minutes, right? I don't think the criticism he has gotten lately for playing his guys heavy minutes is exactly warranted. The Knicks are injured, so of course they are playing more of their key guys. You don't have Julius Randle. You don't have OG Anunoby. You lost Bojan Bogdanovic in the Sixers series. Mitchell Robinson is also gone for the rest of the playoffs. They had to dust off Alec Burks, who has been a great addition into the Knicks rotation, especially given all the injuries. The last 2 games before tonight, he was playing well, and then tonight he played well. Also, like I mentioned, when he had his shots at defending Tyrese Haliburton, he made him work. I'm just not going to count this team out because this Knicks team fits Tom Thibodeau's ethos. They've taken on the whole coach's personality, and it's full of players that fit Tom Thibodeau, and I don't think the minutes thing concerns me. I think what concerns me is, okay, yes, an accumulation of minutes will inevitably lead to something, right? I just think the Knicks are just built to be that conditioned, and tonight was kind of what I expected from the Knicks in this series against the Pacers. They let Game 3 slip away, and then they got the doors blown off of them in Game 4. But especially after midway through the first quarter, the Knicks were locking down defensively. They made Tyrese Haliburton look rattled out there, and I think the Knicks are going to close it out in Game 6.